Hello. ¿Qué peduki? Oli. Okay, sorry. Hey guys, how you doing? Carlos here. I really hope that everything is okay with you, that you have a great vacations with your family or with your beloved ones, that you got rest during these times. I'm kind of miss you a little bit, not that much, not that much. But I'm really happy that I can share again this space with you. I know that this is your last high school semester, and well, maybe this is not still the best scenario yet. But I wanted to tell you that you can count on me. Let's try to make this semester worth, even if freaking pandemic is still here. I wanted to record this short video in order to explain or to give a brief introduction of our subject about philosophy too, and on the topic that we're going to see during the partials. The first partial is going to be about anthropology, and the second partial is going to be about political philosophy. As you can see, really sexy topics. Actually, I think that I kind of like more these topics than the previous ones. Uh, During this video, I'm not going to talk about yet political philosophy. We are going to talk about it in its moment. But I wanted to give a brief introduction about the problem of anthropology. As you may already imagine, the problem of anthropology is the problem of our human condition or our human nature. That word nature is really tricky. It contains already a lot of problems that we are going to problematize during the first partial. But yes, in other words, it is the problem of our human condition. What makes us humans? In what does our human condition consist of? We are humans because we are rational beings, or that because we have or we live within a society, or because we have a political system. Those kind of words are really important, not only actually for the first partial, as you can see, that is anthropology itself, but as well for the second one, political philosophy. Sadly, and as you know, we don't have enough time, and in that sense, we cannot see a lot of content. So we are not going to emphasize some empirical and anthropological investigations or researches in which, for example, we could ask, for example, that we are biped beings, or that, for example, this thumb and the index finger were really important for our constitution of our humanity in the beginning. For the contrary, we are going to ask philosophical questions to the problem of the human condition, to the human being. We are going to ask, philosophically speaking, what is the meaning of our humanity. Therefore, we are going to divide this first partial into two main philosophical stances related to this problem of the human condition. The first one is the essentialism. That essentialism treats, as you can see, the problem of the essence. And in the other hand, we are going to see and study existentialism, that, as you can see, is related to the problem of the existence. Now, briefly explained, the problem or the difference is between the notion of the essence and the notion of the existence. Okay, both concepts or both philosophical ideas give a different notion or conception about our human condition, about our humanity. Let's begin with the essence. The essence is what makes the things what they are. Lo que hace que la cosa sea lo que es. Let's make some examples, okay? For example, let's consider that we are going to talk about a specific object or a specific entity. In this case, we are going to talk about, for example, my arm, okay? It is essential to my arm, for example, to have these bones, the skin, etc., and etc. But what question, for example, my lovely students, is my tattoo essential to my arm? If we are talking or considering my arm as the entity that we are analyzing, we can see that my tattoo is not essential to my arm. Rather, my tattoo is accidental to my arm. In other words, I wasn't born with a tattoo. It wasn't part of my essence as a human being. Human beings don't born with tattoos. So in that sense, this tattoo as an accident, we can see that accidents can be or not in this case the entity, or my arm. But for example, the essential attributes need to be in the object or in the entity in order to make the object what it is. Uh, so another example that we can say about, generally speaking, about our human nature now, we can say that if we consider now the entity a human, let's say that we can, and this is some philosophers supported this. Aristotle, for example, said that one of what the essence of the human being is rationality, being rational. So uh, and that is what makes the difference between a human being, for example, with, for example, my lovely friend Donder that is sleeping, that in my opinion, Donder is really intelligent, another kind of intelligence. So in other words, if the entity, the object, the being loses its essence or its essential attributes, that object or entity is not going to be any longer what it was. So as you can see, essentialism as a philosophical stance tries to show and seek this essence. In other words, what makes us what we are as humans. And there are so many examples, that maybe you can already imagine. I already told you that we have rationality, that we are social beings, that we have another kind of language that maybe animals don't have, and so on and so on. Uh, in under this sense, the meaning of our lives, our purpose, our actions have a meaning uh, due to this essence. And we can make some examples. I already said Aristotle, we're going to see Plato. Uh, Greece was under this horizon, and obviously Christianity, the medieval age. Uh, for example, mankind was considered during the medieval age as a creation of God. Our essence in that time was considered a God's creation. And what is God? We need to actually act, and we needed to, uh, our actions, our thoughts were related to that conception in order to the concept of essence. If we explain the human essence, we are explaining humanity. But that is not the unique or the only way to conceive our humanity. In the other hand, we have existentialism, that is a philosophical stance that criticizes and attacks essentialism and the concept of essence in this way. What if, for example, we don't have a pre-established essence that dictates us how we need to act, how we need to be, or what we are? What if actually we don't have an essence at all? Or what if we don't have an essence, we need to create it, we need to build it, we need to make ourselves humans? Sartre, who was one of the most important existentialist philosophers during the 20th century, says something like existence precedes essence. And that existentialist motto, I think that can be applied to all the existentialist philosophers that, for example, we are going to see Kierkegaard, Albert Camus, and all of these philosophers that are existentialists. That the existence precedes essence means that instead of having a primary essence that dictate us and give us some purpose, or that can tell us what the hell we are, uh, it, for the contrary, means that we exist first, and then we can build, we can make, we can, I don't know, create those kind of essential ways to be. Let's consider this question: what is the human being? An essentialist philosopher would say that the human being is what the essence dictates what the human is, and just that. And in the other hand, the existentialist philosopher would say what the human being is, okay, the human being is what the human does with him or herself. Let's make some examples. Imagine a guy that is trying to understand what the hell is the meaning of life, you know? So if we imagine this person under an essentialist point of view, we can imagine that, for example, this person maybe doesn't understand what the meaning of life is, but he's trying to figure it out, trying to ask, okay, what does God tries to expect, or what does He want from me, you know? And maybe he cannot have a clear meaning of life, but the stance or the point of view relies in the fact that he is trying to figure it out the purpose of God, the already given purpose of God, you know, and his basic task is to fulfill that essence, that requirement, that nature that God already gave to him, you know. Uh, in the other hand, imagine that now this guy is not an essentialist person. We say that this is an existentialist person. This existentialist guy is going to say, okay, I don't understand what God wants, but maybe the meaning of life is not that. And maybe actually I'm never going to know what the meaning of life is. And I'm sadly, and this is really important, in the seek of the meaning of life, I'm actually creating this meaning of life, you know? So, in these two sense, the first guy task is to understand the already given purpose by God, and the second guy it maybe doesn't understand God's uh, purpose, but maybe he actually doesn't care about it, you know, and he's going to create his own purpose, you know. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that believing in God is wrong, or something like that. For the contrary, and actually, the existentialist philosopher that we're going to study is Soren Kierkegaard, and his central idea in his thought is God. And Kierkegaard is actually considered the father of existentialism. I can explain this distinction in another way. For example, consider these two questions. What is God? And if there is a God, how can I relate with Him? As you can see, the first question is more related to essentialism. Why? Because maybe, and please try to feel these questions. This question, what is God, is kind of cold, you know, it's kind of abstract, you know. God is a supreme being that brings goodness and the source of goodness, or any single entity of the world, you know. That is an essentialist answer, you know. But in the other question, if there is a God, how can I relate with Him? That is an existentialist question, you know. What is the meaning of having a relationship with God? What is the purpose that can or may God give to me or to my life, you know? How is my existence and myself affected by God, you know? That is an existentialist question and answer that lead us to the final distinction. When we talk in essentialism, we kind of lose the individual, you know. What is God? Well, that question can be kind of maybe good for so many people, but I bet that the other question, if there is a God, how can I relate with him or her? I don't know the gender of God, but that is a more important question, I think, for the individual, for you, you know. Existence is about ourselves, about Carlos, about you, that you, my lovely student, are seeing this video, you know. As you can see, I kind of like more existentialism, but both philosophical point of view have something to teach us, you know. So, well, I think this is everything for this first video and introduction. I really hope that you have a great semester. I really love you guys, and you know that you can count on me. Take care, please.